ॐ श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवत् व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Anil Kumar Pugalia. So let's chant from number 34. 34 of Akirtin Chapi onwards. Okay. Akirtin Chapi Bhutani.
अकीर्तिं चापि भूतानि
Kathayishyanti te vyayam.
कथयिष्यन्ति ते व्ययाम्
Sambhavitasya cha kirtihi.
सम्भावितस्य च कीर्तिः
Maranadatirichyate.
मरणादतिरिच्यते
Bhayadranaduparatam.
भयाद्राणुदुपरतम्
Bhayadranat
भयाद्रणात्
uparatam.
उपरतम्
Mamsyante tvam maharathaha.
मंशन्ते त्वां महारथाः
Yeshan chatvam bahumataha.
येषां च त्वं बहुमतः
Bhutva yasyasi laghavam.
भूत्वा यास्यसि लाघवम्
Avachyavadamscha bahun.
अवाच्यवादांश्च बहून्
Vadishyanti tavahitaha.
वदिष्यन्ति तवाहिताः
Nindantastava samarthyam.
निन्दन्तस्तव सामर्थ्यम्
Tato dukkataram nukim.
तत दुःखतरं नु किम्
Hato va prapsyasi swargam
हतो वा प्राप्स्यसि स्वर्गम्
jitva va bhokshyase mahim
जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसे महीम्
tasmaduttishta kaunteya
तस्मादुत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय
युद्धाय कृतनिश्चयः
युद्धाय कृतनिश्चयः
सुख दुःखे समे कृत्वा
सुखदुःखे समे कृत्वा
लाभालाभौ जयाजयौ
लाभालाभौ जयाजयौ
ततो युद्धाय युज्यस्व
ततो युद्धाय युज्यस्व
नैवं पापमवाप्स्यसि.
नैवं पापं वाप्स्यसि.
Yeah. So we have just, the last class we were just beginning verse number 38. Sukha dukhe same krutva. So we notice that Dehi Nityam Avadhyoyam, verse number 30. So until verse number 30, Bhagavan Sri Krishna was unfolding the nature of Atma. And then there was a shift in the point of view. And then 31 onwards, Swadharma Mapi Chave. So from the point of view of your own dharma, who are you? You're a person. You are a person born into Vedic society, and so there is something called Swadharma. And so, being a Kshatriya, there are certain duties that you have. And so, looking at it from that point of view, so it's a worldly argument. Okay, so it's not talking about the nature of Atma, talking about your duties in society, etc. So starting from there, he talks about your duty as a Kshatriya. Then he talks about what happens if you abandon this duty. What are the consequences of that? So you will gain papam. You were thinking that you will gain papam and you will go to Naraka if you fight this war. I am saying that if you do not fight this war, you are going to, if you fight the war, you are going to go to Swarga. And if you don't fight the war, is when you will go to Naraka. I'm going to tell you the opposite. I'm telling you the opposite. This argument he makes. And then talks about how people will perceive you if you abandon your duty. If you are a nobody, then nobody will notice it except some family members. But you are not a nobody, and so you cannot do this. And it's going to hurt you, come back to bite you, as they say. And they will say things like Bhayat Ranat Uparatam, verse number 35. They will say things like you, this Arjuna, who ran away from the war. And they will add stories. And they will say, this fellow has been telling us that he fought with Shiva and he's this and he's that. But look, when the time comes to fight, he doesn't have what it takes to fight. So this kind of argument he gives Bhagavan Sri Krishna. And 37, he talks about this is a win-win situation for you. Hato va prapsyasi swargam. So if you get killed in this war, then Swarga is waiting for you. And if you win, of course, nothing stops you from doing what you do, and you will be the ultimate, you can enjoy the entire world. And enjoyment is possible only with dharma. Otherwise, enjoyment is not possible. Otherwise, we think we enjoy, but really speaking, there is joy may not be there. So, and because you are dharmic, therefore there is, you will be the most respected person. You will be a leader, and you will have a good life. Then 38, he is now shifting the argument, beginning to shift the argument. He says, Sukha dukhe same kritva. Labha labho jaya jayo. So first time he is talking about, he's introducing the idea of karma yoga. So what is karma yoga? We've never mentioned, and there is a lot to talk about it. And last class I mentioned that the presentation, the analysis of human life as done by Krishna and therefore as done by our Vedas is one of a psychology of raga dveshas. So there may be analyzing our sorrowful experiences, analyzing sorrow itself. There can be numerous causes, we say, known causes, we say, and numerous unknown causes. Bhagavad Gita puts all of that into what is called raga dvesha. Raga dveshas, likes and dislikes. That's the simple translation of raga dveshas. And so here, Sukha dukhe same kritva. Considering both joy and sorrow as same. That's the literal meaning of the Sukha dukhe same kritva. Okay. In Sanskrit, Sukham and Dukkham. Right? And it is Napumsaka Lingam. Therefore, it becomes, it's a pair. And so he is written it in dual. What do you call? Dual number. And so it is called Sukha Dukhe. Phalam Phale Phalani. Dukkham Dukhe Dukkhani. So Sukha Dukhe. Okay, Sanskrit students. And therefore, Samam is Ekavachanam. Same is Dvivachanam. Not Saptami Ekavachanam Same. It has to be Prathama Vibhakti or even Dvitiya Vibhakti Dvivachanam. Okay, just for your information there. All right. So here Bhashyakara says, Bhashyakara, Adi Shankaracharya, he explains Sukha dukhe same kritva as raga dveshau akritva. You see, we can't simply interpret these things the way we like. This is why we need Adi Shankaracharya. And so he says raga dveshau akritva. Let's understand that. See, because pain and pleasure are two different things. And treat both of them identical means what? It has to mean something. They're not identical. Obviously, they're not identical. At least if you say treat orange and apple as identical, even there I will have a problem. Okay, so they're not identical. Their nutritional content is different, the taste is different, the trees are different, the color is different, everything is different about these two fruits. And you can't tell me these two are identical. Now you're coming to something that's very important to me, happiness and sorrow, and you're telling me treat them as equal. So we have to understand what Bhagavan Sri Krishna means by that. Ragadveshav akritva means do not be driven by ragas and dveshas. Let not your actions be driven by raga and dvesha. Let it be driven by dharma and adharma. This is the meaning. Shankaracharya tells us ragadveshav akritva. Duryodhana had a raga for the kingdom. He had dvesha for the Pandavas. He hated the Pandavas. From day one, he was jealous about the Pandavas. So his entire life revolved around this jealousy, this hatred, and this greed for kingdom and greed for power. That was the life of Duryodhana. Okay, so every action of his was driven by that. And what about Pandavas? Pandava's life constantly dharma, dharma, right or wrong. Is this right or wrong? Constantly worrying about is what should I do? What is the right thing to do? This we have seen in the Mahabharata. This is constant. And debating about everything where there is a potential conflict or doubt. So Arjuna's actions have been driven by dharma, dharma. Here also the Arjuna thinks of dharma, dharma only, but he has a raga. The raga for what? Hey, these people who are standing in front of you, they are on the side of adharma. But you love them. You love them. I have raga for them. You have raga for them. Correct? You don't want them to die because you grew up with them. You learned from them. Therefore, that respect may be there, and respect is there, and therefore that love is there, and that raga. Here we should use the word raga. Means I like, there's certain things I like. I want them to be alive. In this case, I want them to live long. This is a raga. And so Krishna is saying, raga dvesha. Your actions are driven by raga dvesha. Even though you are a dharmic person, even though we know that, I know that, hey Arjuna, your actions are being driven by raga dvesha. You don't have raga for the kingdom. You gave up your kingdom. You're ready to give up. Even now you are ready to give up. So clearly you don't have greed. You don't have any jealousy against anybody. You have compassion. But that compassion, your compassion is misplaced. Compassion is misplaced. Get that. Compassion. That's why Viveka is needed. When you must be compassionate, when you must say, okay, I cannot let my compassion weaken me. Is it possible for compassion to weaken me? Something to think about. So you are driven by, you're consumed by compassion when you are supposed to stand up and say, this is not right. I am compassionate still, but you are wrong. You must be punished. Okay? Must be done, right? Every parent knows this. As the conflict, the parent also learns. As the child grows, the parent also learns. Oh my God, what should I do now? And then parent suffers, and then later on she or he decides, no, this is I've given, I've given him too much freedom. This too much freedom. That comes from raga and dvesha. Okay, so here, having said that, so this battle is one of dharma and adharma. And you must keep your eyes on dharma and adharma, O Arjuna. That was being said here. And so that's same kritva sukhadukke, ragadveshau akritva, not letting your actions and decision be driven by raga and dvesha. Look at that. It doesn't say don't remove your raga and dvesha. Don't let them drive your decisions, your actions. And do what is to be done. What does he say here? He says, Yuddhaya yujyasva. Yuddhaya yujyasva. Engage in war. Engage in this war. Because Arjuna context is war, Yuddhaya yujyasva. If your context is different, then whatever action is appropriate. So do what is to be done. That is a message here. And for Arjuna, of course, it means stand up and fight. Get up and fight. And Naivam papam avapsisi. Once again, Krishna reminds Arjuna. If you do like that, you will not gain demerit, papa, as you had been worried about. You will not. That papa will not come to you. And so here, this idea of prasada buddhi, take whatever comes as prasada and do what is to be done. Okay, as an offering to Ishvara, because everything is Ishvara. Do it as an offering to Ishvara and accept whatever comes as prasada. This idea will be talked about later in the 3rd chapter. Even in the 2nd chapter, he will talk about, elaborate on Karma Yoga. And so that has been introduced without mentioning the word yoga in this shloka. The shloka yoga is not used, but the samam, same kritva, sukha dukhe same kritva, and then he continues, labha labhau jaya jayo. And labha labhau is a compound word which means labha. Labha, of course, means gain, and alabha, the 2 words there. Okay, labha and alabha, which becomes labha labhau in dual gender. I mean dual number. And so labha labhau. So gain and loss, treat them as what? Same, can we say? Well, let not the fear of gain and loss decide what you should do. Jaya jayo, victory, jaya and ajaya. That is a compound there. If jaya is victory, what is ajaya? Ajaya must be defeat. So jaya jayo, correct? So treating all of these, not being driven by these outcomes, arambha shura. So people are very excited when they give ideas, and then we should do this, we should do that. And suddenly when the time comes to do, many people back off from the fear of the outcome. Fear of outcome. How many of us have fear of outcome? So I don't know what will happen. What happens? What to do if this happens, that happens? What to do if it doesn't work out? Yeah. So all these fears are there. So you don't worry about, of course, Arjuna did not have the fear of the outcome. And he was talking more in terms of dharma and papam and so forth. But Krishna here is invoking victory or defeat. Doesn't matter what the outcome is. What is to be done by you at this time? This is what you need to think about. And tato yuddhaya yujyasva naivam papam avapsyasi. So let's look at the shloka here. Taking pleasure and pain, sukha dukhe kritva, gain and loss, labha labho. And then what? Victory and defeat, jaya jayo. To be the same. That's a literal translation. Same kritva. Okay, to be the same. Prepare for battle. Tataha yuddhaya yujyasva. Prepare for battle. Engage in war. Thus you will gain no papam. Evam papam na avapsyasi. Evam papam na avapsyasi. Thus you will gain no papam. Taking pleasure and pain, gain and loss, victory and defeat to be the same, and to be the same to be interpreted. Prepare for battle. Thus you will gain no sin or no papam. Sin is not a good translation for papam. Okay, so understanding that this idea of karma yoga is being introduced in a seed, in a form of a seed, bija rupa karma yoga. So in this next shloka we are about to chant, and he is going to, for the first time, talk about the two different subject matters that comprises the Bhagavad Gita, that comprises the Shastra. Let us chant that and get an idea of what that is. Okay. Yeah, who would like to? Bhagya. So verse number 39. Okay. Yesha te Oh, what happened? Yeah.
Sorry, I think I clicked mute myself. So.
Yesha te
Esha te
abhihita
abhihita
sankhye
sankhye
buddhir yoge
buddhiryoge
svimam shrunu
tvimam shrunu
buddhya yuktaha
buddhya yuktaha
yaya partha
yaya partha
karma bandham
karma bandham
prahasyasi
prahasyasi
yesha te bhihita sankhye
esha te bhihita sankhye
buddhir yoge tvimam shrunu
buddhiryoge tvimam shrunu
buddhya yukto yaya partha
buddhya yukto yaya partha
karma bandham prahasyasi.
karma bandham prahasyasi.
Yeah, can remain unmuted. So Krishna is now saying, he introduces some words, right? Sankhya, he introduced a word there. Then yogi. So two words, main words are introduced here in the shloka. To keep in mind. So he's saying I have taught you Sankhya so far. And now listen to yoga. This is what he's saying in the shloka. Now listen to yoga. So we need to understand these words. So what happened? Verse number 11 onwards, he taught about the nature of Atma, all the way till 30, right? It's pure Atma, nature of Atma. So avinashitu tadviddhi yena sarvam idam tatam vinasham avyayasyasya na kaschit kartumarhasi. So this Atma is avinashi. This Atma is all pervasive. And avyaktoyam, achintyoyam, this Atma is avyakta, is unmanifest, or it is not perceivable. Achintyaha, it cannot be objectified as an object. Like this, Atma's nature was revealed. Then from 31 onwards, he shifted the argument from an absolute standpoint to a relative standpoint. Correct? Relative. Relative means worldly arguments. This is better, that is better, this is not right. Dharma and adharma also relative. Dharma adharma also relative, remember. Dharma is not absolute. We have to be careful. Dharma is never absolute. Means what? If dharma is deciding what is the question of what is right and wrong. Okay? What is right and wrong always depends on the context, depends on the situation, depends on the time, place. Always. Never absolute. That is why there is never a dharma book. You can never find a dharma book. You can only have some duties are there, and duties and rights, all this we can write about. We can write. But at a particular moment, what one should do, one has to decide, constantly decide. So very important. And only the human mind has to do that, and the human mind has the ability to do that. Okay, so this starting from 31 all the way until now, until 38. So relative arguments were put forth and saying if you win, you will enjoy, if you lose, or if you die, you will go to Swarga, etc. These are all relative arguments. It appears like a big thing. Yeah, big things also can be relative, need not be absolute. Okay, now that first portion from 11 to 30, that subject is called Sankhya. Sankhya. So the word Sankhya is used for a couple of things. It is used for Brahman. It is also used for the knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of Atma. That word is reserved for that, Sankhya. Or it can sometimes be used for knowledge in general. But here in our context, Sankhya means either Brahma or Brahma Vidya. Brahma or Brahma Vidya. So he is saying, Yesha te abhihita Sankhya. Until now, Esha, until now what I have told you is the topic of Sankhya, is the topic of the nature of Atma, nature of Brahma. Sankhya buddhihi. Yesha buddhihi. This buddhi here means this vision. Buddhi here doesn't mean decision, etc. It means this vision that I told you, that I revealed to you, is called Sankhya. Okay. And then what? Yoge tu imam shrunu. Yoge tu imam buddhim shrunu. Now listen to the vision of yoga. That is the literal translation of this second part of the first line. Okay. Now, this chapter, second chapter, is actually titled Sankhya Yoga. So if you not noticed it, it will come later. Generally towards the end of the chapter, we will mention the name of the chapter. And traditionally, when they chant in the ashrams and all that I've been to, they don't start chanting by giving the title of the chapter. Just they will say Prathamodhyayaha, Dvitiyodhyayaha, first chapter, second chapter, and then they will start chanting. They won't say Prathamodhyayaha, Arjuna Vishada Yogaha, Sanjaya Uvacha, Dhritarashtra Uvacha, like that they won't chant. So each of these chapters have a title. So the 18 chapters are there, 18 titles are there, and they are all called Arjuna Vishada Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, like this. The titles are given. Highly unlikely. So that word yoga there refers to title. Sankhya Yoga there means the topic, title or topic, the topic of Sankhya. That is the meaning of the word yoga in that sentence, which refers to the chapter as Sankhya Yoga. Okay. Now, unlikely that Vedavyasa gave titles to these chapters. Very unlikely. Swamiji says it's very unlikely. And Vedavyasa did a lot of things. But at some point, somebody must have come and split it, probably even split it into chapters. And even Vedavyasa would not have split like that. I doubt it. Because remember, Vedavyasa is dictating this to who? Dictating to Ganesha. Ganesh Maharaj is sitting in front and he is not ordinary. And Ganesh Maharaj put a condition, you all should remember that. For a moment, if you pause, I am going to drop my pen and run away. I have other things to do. So this is what Ganesh Maharaj said. So Vedavyasa also, he couldn't do whatever he wanted. So I'm sure he said, it's more important for me to just tell what comes in my mind rather than give all these chapter names and chapter 2 and chapter. That people will figure out. Manushas are good at splitting all these things and giving titles, putting a cover, all these things they are good at doing. I will take care of the content. So that is how Vyasa must have thought. So why we said this? The chapter title, for example, chapter 12 is Bhakti Yoga. Okay, Bhakti talks about Bhakti. But then chapter 11, Vishwarupa Yoga, has a lot more Bhakti of Arjuna. Arjuna's expression of Bhakti is very evident in chapter 11. So you would think, oh, chapter 11 should have gotten the title of Bhakti Yoga. And likewise, Dhyana Yoga. There is Dhyana. In Dhyana Yoga, there are only 2 or 3 verses talking about Dhyana. There's no other dhyana. Many verses are there. No dhyana is talked about. So therefore titles are given just for demarcating beginning to end. Let's call it like that. And for our convenience. Okay. So here it so happens that this chapter is called as Sankhya Yoga. And because the nature of Atma is revealed here by Sri Krishna, and so that Sankhya makes this Gita as a moksha shastra. If the Gita only had this yoga we are going to talk about karma yoga, which is needed to prepare ourselves for this Brahma Vidya. That still comes under relative, and that is not the nature of Atma. And so, if that were the only content, the Gita would not have been called as Brahma Vidya. Would not have been Brahma Vidya, called Brahma Vidya Shastram. It's called Moksha Shastram. So these two are there very clearly. And so we have to spend a little bit of time here to understand these two. Yeshate Abhita Sankhye Buddhir Yoge tu Imam Shrunu. Listen to yoga that I am going to talk to you about. So some words: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Sannyasa, Karma. All these words are there. So we need to carefully understand these words. Karma. Karma can mean two things. Karma can mean action. Karma can also mean the result of action, based on the context, right? So when I say my karma, in India we do this sometimes. My karma. Now, my karma, this happened, right? So that means I am referring to karma phalam, papam and punyam. So my karma means I have to suffer this because of some past karma. So that is the result. So do your karma. If somebody says, it is referring to do your duty, do your actions. What you have to do, you do. Okay. So having understood that, so there is Sankhya. Sankhya can also be called as Sannyasa, can also be called as Jnana Yoga. Just for your information, right? Sankhya can be called Sannyasa, can also be called as Jnana Yoga. Opposed to that, or differentiating that, is Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga, which is what Krishna is referring to by just the word yoga. Okay. So now, moksha is the goal. And then in order to gain moksha, one needs a particular attitude when performing actions. That attitude is called as Karma Yoga. Now look. We've all come to study the Shastra. And somewhere we've heard that this Bhagavad Gita is something that I must study. And my life would be incomplete without studying Bhagavad Gita. Like this, there is some apatata jnana. I don't know what is there in the Bhagavad Gita. Maybe I know Krishna talks to Arjuna because I've seen all these serials and I got some knowledge about that there is Bhagavad Gita, it happens in the Mahabharata, all these ideas we have. But really speaking, even though I may know some shlokas of Bhagavad Gita, I really don't know what is the content. But it is praised so much by everybody that, and it has become part of our culture, and it is there. Our grandparents have been studying it, our parents may have chanted it, and somehow or the other, we know that this is an important text. Then as we grow up, then we analyze our own lives, our own experiences, Pariksha lokan karmachitan. Mundaka says that. And then we begin to realize, you know what? There is something more to life than this, and there is this happiness, sorrow. And what I'm really seeking is happiness. But sorrow seems to come along with it all the time. And so I am confused a little bit. I need some clarification. So that's what brings us to Bhagavad Gita. Even if that thinking did not bring us, the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita will help us think like that. And then give clarity to what it is that I am really seeking. I've been seeking all life long. I know that. I know everything that I went after. The drive I went after, things. I know all those things. But really speaking, what am I seeking? Then the Shastram says moksha. Shastram says you are the whole. And you are actually seeking yourself. Like this statements when Shastram says, then suddenly it begins to interest us. And then Shastram says, hey, if you are the whole, and if you are what you're seeking, then why am I inadequate? Why do I feel inadequate? How can I be sorrowful if my nature is Ananda? This question should arise. Therefore, Shastram says, you must know that your nature is Ananda. That knowledge called as Jnanam, called as Atma Vidya, that has to happen. You must understand your nature. That's all. Okay, so I want moksha. And in order to have moksha, I must know myself. In order to know myself, what should I do? Then Ishvara Anugrahena, with the blessing of Ishvara, then I must approach a guru, and then I must use the Shastram. I must employ the Shastram. So Shastrena, Guru, Shastra Vakyeshu Shraddha. So with that Shraddha, I approach the Shastram, and then I can gain this knowledge. Okay. Now, exposing to Shastram alone may not give knowledge. What should I do to prepare myself? Some preparation is also needed. For every subject matter, there is some preparation. So some mathematics is needed before you approach physics. That is why they teach mathematics, algebra and all that right in the beginning in school. And then physics and biology and all comes much later. And so there is always a foundation. So what kind of foundation is needed for me here? Okay, good. So I need some foundation. That foundation is called Karma Yoga. Jnanam is called Jnana Yoga. This foundation that I need is called Karma Yoga, which is what Krishna is referring to by the word yoga in the shloka. Okay? And that foundation, we often use the phrase Antakarana Shuddhi. Antakarana Shuddhi. Karana means instrument. Antakarana means the inner instrument which refers to the mind. And then Shuddhi. Shuddhi, literal meaning is purity. We can say maturity of the mind. I must gain a sense of maturity, a level of maturity, so that I can appreciate what the Shastram says. Correct? Maturity. I must be mature enough. Which means I need to, if I'm given to greed, then I must work on it. If I'm greedy for certain things, what does it mean? It means I have a strong sense that I am incomplete without these things that I'm going after. That's the meaning. I am incomplete is the meaning. Greed implies I am incomplete. I feel wretched. I feel inadequate. Unless I grab all these things, I feel inadequate. So, such a person cannot appreciate Vedanta. How? Vedanta says you are full, but I am saying I'm not full. I must more or less have the conviction that I am complete. That maturity is needed. That kind of understanding is needed in order to pursue the Shastra. Right? So like driving, you have to be more or less mentally be a driver. Only then you can sit in the car and drive and get the learner's permit and then drive the car. If I'm completely scared, that's why people who are very scared to drive, fear is there, of course. But the idea of driving is there, and which overcomes the fear, and slowly the fear goes away. But one must have that conviction in the Shastra. And building that foundation is called Karma Yoga. One more point we have to make is, so we are going to talk about this a lot. So this is not the only time that Krishna will talk about it. Krishna is just introducing the word yoga. Karma versus Karma Yoga. This also we must be clear about. Karma is action. In this case, Karma Yoga is not action. If karma is action, what is Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga is the attitude with which I perform action. Karma Yoga is the attitude with which I perform action. And what can be that attitude? That attitude is, I am doing this karma because it is what I must do. It is dictated by Dharma. And I am doing this karma as an offering to Ishvara. I recognize Ishvara. Ishvara is Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Ishvara is everywhere. Therefore, no thing I see, no person I see, no object I see is separate from Ishvara. And therefore, my actions are also going into that Ishvara Srishti. Therefore, I am offering it. I am offering it. Like you offer your ghee. Your ghee into what? Not into Shakra Pongal. You offer ghee, of course. You offer ghee into your sweets also. That also offering. That is also offering. Okay. Ishvara Prasada. That buddhi has to be there. Okay. Eventually it is going to go into my stomach. Okay. That may be there. But that also is an offering. Going into my stomach also is an offering. We're going to see that later. Brahma Arpanam, Brahma Heavy. We're going to see it. Okay. So all offerings will become offerings to Ishvara. Amazing. So there is no dichotomy here at all. So, but here I was saying, offering the ghee into this yaga, into the homa. So I got a mail from Vaidyaji the other day saying that many people in the US are doing this Sudarshana Homa for this India-China standoff to help India gain an upper hand. They're doing Sudarshana Homa. So they're also offering. Offering is done. The Homa offering is done. So just when you offer the ghee into the Homa, the Ghritam, what is done? Idam na mama. The mantra that is chanted is Idam na mama. Indraya idam na mama. Indraya swaha idam na mama. Somaya swaha idam na mama. Look at that. Hey, I am offering it to Indra, I am offering it to Soma, I am offering it to Agni. Idam na mama. This is not mine. That is the attitude. So it's an important attitude. So offering it to Ishvara. It's called Ishvararpana Buddhi. We will refer to it again and again. That is one aspect. So one aspect is Dharma. Second aspect is Ishvararpana Buddhi. Third aspect is Prasada Buddhi. Prasada Buddhi means what? Hey, I am doing something and there is an expectation of result. Now, what actually will happen from all the things I do? We know very well that either my desires are fulfilled or my desires are partially fulfilled or my desires are not fulfilled, or the result can be entirely opposite of what I want. Any of these four outcomes are possible. How will you handle it? That how will I handle it is called Karma Yoga. Prasada Buddhi. Prasada Buddhi. This word Prasada is very important in our culture. And every language has this word, every Indian language, has this word Prasada. Prasadamu, prasadam, prasad. Same thing. Gujarati, I'm sure it will be some minor variation of that word prasad. And Bengali and all that. Prasad, they might say prasad or something like that, right? Bengali. So this is all there is. Same consonants are all there. And so it means what? You go to the temple and then the Pandita there offers you something. What do you say? You take it in your hands. Then what do you say? Oh, it's only milk. I was expecting some raisins. Is that what you say? I was expecting almonds. No, you don't say that. Oh, water? You don't even give milk? Is that what you say? No, we don't say that. No Indian will say that. They will just take whatever comes and then just do whatever, depending on the culture, pour it on the head, drink it, whatever. And at first, first you do this. You show that palm to your two eyes. Why will they do that? Why do they do that? They do that because the eyes are sacred. In the part of the body, the eyes are particularly sacred because without eyes, the life will be very different. And so whatever happens, instinctively we protect our eyes. Correct? Somebody throws something and you don't think anything, you immediately duck. Ducking. Ducking happens because of protection of the eyes. And this part especially, very important. Hey, your brain is in the head. Don't you want to protect your head? Brain is not important or what? No, the eyes are somehow, we are just built to protect the eyes. So therefore, by doing like this, what we are saying is, what has come to me in my hands right now is as sacred as my eyes, is as important as my eyes. This is what is being said. A beautiful culture, look at that. Can you imagine this culture? So you do that and then you take the prasad. This is called prasad. So part one, I said dharma, but if you take dharma out, because dharma is understood. Whatever I do is based on dharma anyway. Dharma is understood. Therefore, if you take dharma out, then you have what? Ishwararpana buddhi and prasada buddhi. These are the two main components of karma yoga. And karma yoga is an attitude. Karma yoga is not an action. Therefore, you can't say do karma yoga. Do some, aaj kuch karma yoga karenge. Ashram jaake karma yoga karenge. Ashram jaake karma karenge. That is okay. But not karma yoga karenge. Karma yoga. Karma yoga means attitude. Whatever I do, I have this attitude with me. And like, nobody can tell you, do some compassion. Do some compassion. What do some compassion? No, please do some compassion. Means what? You want me to be kind to somebody? Yes. Okay, so be compassionate. Be compassionate is all you can say. Compassion is not an action. Compassion is a state of mind. It's an attitude. And it's an attitude that looks at beings very gently, looks at beings in their own places. It looks at beings with a lot of understanding. That is what compassion is, correct? So you cannot do compassion. You can only be compassionate. You can invoke the attitude of compassion in your mind. Like that, here karma yoga is an attitude. It is not an action. So just some introduction to some of these words that we will begin to see again and again. And here, so karma. Karma also, good time to talk about what is karma. Actions, what kind of actions are there? There are typically 4 types of actions. Look at this. Kamya karma. Kamya karma. Kamya karma means what? Actions done, driven by my likes and dislikes. Basically, I want a phone, I will do whatever it takes to buy the phone. I like the room to be in a particular way. Therefore, I rearrange the furniture and then make the room look like the way I want. Kamya karma. These are all kamya karma. Doing things because I like them to be this way. Okay. Then what? Nishiddha karma. Nishiddha karma is what? Prohibited actions. So Dharma Shastra talks about prohibited actions. You shall not lie, you shall not steal other people's money. All these are prohibited actions. So when Dharma is there, automatically prohibited actions are clear and they are not done. Not done. Then there is Prayaschitta karma. Before that, we can say Nitya Naimittika karma. Nitya Naimittika karma. A Vaidika, a person born in a Hindu society, has Nitya Naimittika karma. Nitya means daily or periodically, and Naimittika means based on certain occasions. Like the other day we said Grahanam, eclipse, solar eclipse, then it becomes this time when you must do certain karmas. You must do certain rituals, you must do certain prayers, you must do dhyanam, etc. So, and Shraddham, those who, Tarpanam will be done by those who don't have father or mother. And so that is called Naimittika karma. Nitya Naimittika karma is the third type of karma. And then fourth type of karma is called Prayaschitta karma. Prayaschitta karma. What is Prayaschitta? Actions of atonement. I did something wrong. I may have hurt somebody, and I realized that I should not have said that. So, guilt. So, in order to avoid the guilt, I will do a Prayaschitta karma. Prayaschitta karma can be religious, can be a non-religious activity, or a combination of both. And so, I may approach the person and offer my apologies, and still that person is hurt, because sometimes hurt takes a while to go. Then I will offer. So I may chant Rudram, I may chant Chamakam, I may chant some mantras, I may chant Lalita Sahasranama, Stotram, so as to neutralize this action, neutralize the results of my wrong action. This is called Prayaschitta karma. Very big thing in our culture. Those days, as a Prayaschitta karma, they will go do Anga Pradakshanam. Anga Pradakshanam means take a temple and then you roll around the temple. Roll. Amazing. This Prayaschitta karma is amazing. So, these are the four types of karmas. And all karmas will have result. And the question now is, with what attitude I am going to do karma? This is the one we are beginning to understand. Slowly, the attitude of karma yoga has to be invoked. And the purpose of that is what? The purpose of karma yoga is to gain antakarana shuddhihi. That phrase you may want to note. Means a maturity of mind. Antakarana shuddhihi. Why do I need maturity of mind? So that I can pursue the Shastram and gain the knowledge of Atma. Why should I do that? Well, so that I can be free from ignorance. Why should I be free from ignorance? Well, because I want to be happy. Why do you want to be happy? Because I don't want to be sad. Why I don't want to be sad? I don't know. I don't want to be sad. What can we say? This is how we are built. And by the way, you are Ananda Swarupa. Therefore, there is no need for any travel. Look at that. Everything comes. If you are not Ananda Swarupa, if knowledge of Atma is not the solution, then what can be the solution? I must do something so I can transport myself to a place called Swarga, and then I will be happy. Correct? There is other option. The world is offering all that. We have all these options. We have a marketplace here. It's a huge Walmart type offerings are all there. Different things. You stand in front and You went to buy some socks and you go around and you say, my God, I want a pair of socks. And different colors, different brands, and gray color and white color combination, white and little shade. Now I'm confused. I went to buy a pair of socks and I go to the store and now I'm confused. This is how the world is. And instead of taking 5 minutes, I come outside after 1.5 hours. Hey, what did you do for 1.5 hours? I don't know what I did. Okay. So that marketplace is there. So they offer all these things. You must go here. You must do this. You must worship this. Then you will end up with my God. And then my God, you finally will reach there and then you will be happy ever after. This is what we've been told. And so that is also when you say I've been to some place or I'm going to some place, that some place so that some place is also a place. It is in time and it is finite. Because that some place is not here, it means it is somewhere else. That means it's a finite place. It also has a compound wall, it appears, and it has a adhipati. There is Indra or somebody sitting there governing that. Hey, it's a great place to go. Like Hawaii and other places, it's a great place to go. But then what? I have to come back. This is what the Shastram says. And so, therefore, all that is also anatma, that is also anityam. And so, fortunately, Atma is Ananda Swarupaha. Therefore, Jnanam is all that it takes to free ourselves from the ignorance and then gain what is called moksha. So we will stop with that. So we looked at verse number 39. We are beginning to discuss some of the words called Sankhya and Yoga that Sri Krishna mentioned for the first time. And so trying to understand what Sankhya is, trying to understand what Yoga is. And we said Yoga means Karma Yoga. Okay. And what does it include? What about Bhakti Yoga and all the other yogas? All that we will continue the discussion next class and complete it in the next class also. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.